In the last episode, we witnessed a pivotal moment. When Jia handed out 98 points to Jean instead of the perfect 100, he responded by enveloping her in a tight embrace, his words a whispered plea in her ear, "Jia, may I get 2 points for this?" Despite the cold air and the chilly breeze, Jia's chest felt warm, as if a sunny day had suddenly emerged. At that very moment, Mincheol made her feel like it was already summer. Softly, Jean inquired, "How many points would you give this?" Jia went silent momentarily, then abruptly broke free from Jin's grasp, exclaiming, "Hot, it's way too hot in here. Geez, it's probably because of the alcohol, my body feels way too hot right now if you grab me like that." Yet, in her heart, she secretly yearned for Jean to seize her like that again. Jia pondered, wondering why what Jean did today felt strangely familiar, as if it wasn't the first time. The way he approached her was dangerously enticing, and Jia felt she could have easily succumbed to another impulsive act. Observing Jia's reaction, Jean remarked, "It looks like I made another mistake. I should have been more aware that it has gotten quite hot recently. Sorry." In truth, Jia felt hot due to being flustered, yet she couldn't fathom Jin's reason for apologizing. Without a second thought, Jia delivered a knee-bending retort, stating, "I told you not to apologize, you jerk. You really are a bad listener." With determination, she seized Jin's collar and initiated a passionate kiss. After the kiss, Jean was about to speak, but Jia interrupted, asserting, "Don't apologize, just don't. Why do you apologize for something that isn't your fault to begin with? Take, for example, our kiss just now. Objectively, it may seem questionable, like if someone was threatened or forced into it with a stranger. However, for people in a relationship, it's a form of affection." Jia firmly gripped Jin's hand and declared, "I won't apologize. If I say sorry, won't this turn into a mistake? Even if I did something wrong, if it's a sign of affection, you don't have to apologize. Anyways, what I wanted to say is that accidents can happen, right? It's fine to make mistakes, and I don't want to hear any apologies from you for things that aren't your fault." Jean called out Jia's name, pulled her closer by the waist and kissed her. As their lips met, a thought flashed through Jia's mind, this is 100%, and she can't avoid this. After a few seconds, Jean spoke, "Jia, before we head home, can I drop by the convenience store?" While Jia waited for Jean in front of the convenience store, her mind raced with thoughts. If someone goes to the convenience store in this situation, it's gotta be that, right? The thing that starts with con. There's no way he came all the way here just to buy anything else. Pondering all of this made Jia feel flustered. She surmised that they were doing what a married couple does. Suddenly, someone called her name from behind. When she turned around, she was utterly surprised to see that person, a tall and handsome man who exclaimed, "Oh, it really is you. It's been a while, Han Jia." It was back during Jia's college days when she first met him, Kangwoo Sunbae. Tall, handsome, and incredibly kind, he easily won the favor of everyone around him. An easily likable person, he was the type to make a positive impression effortlessly. One day, when Jia fell asleep while studying in the library, he kindly placed his jacket over her to shield her from the cold. If Jia were to describe her impression of Kangwoo Sunbae, she'd say he was a sweet guy, the kind that everyone adored. Now, in the present, Jia was taken aback to see him suddenly. Sunbae spoke up, "Wow, and here I thought I was seeing things. Just how long has it been? Have you been well?" Jia nervously replied, "Well, I guess." Sunbae smiled and casually touched Jia's hair, saying, "Your face hasn't changed one bit, but I almost didn't recognize you because of your hair." Suddenly, a hand landed on Sunbae's shoulder, and it was Jin Mincheol defensively intervening, making sure his hands were away from Jia. Jia quickly stopped Jin and explained that Sunbae was an old friend. Apologizing, she said, "I am sorry, Sunbae. My husband must have gotten the wrong idea." Sunbae smiled, It's alright. So you got married, Jia. I see, well, it has been years after all. This is to be expected, and you are at that age. I am sorry, Mr. Husband. I was so happy to see the face of my junior who went a little too far. Please allow me to offer my deepest apologies." With that, he started to take his leave but suddenly stopped and added, "Oh right, Jisoo and the others were pretty worried about you. When you're free, you should contact them, or if it's fine with you, sit down with them." "Alright, I'll be on my way. See you next time." After that, an awkward silence lingered in the taxi throughout Jia and Jin's journey home. The past, which Jia had managed to mostly forget, began resurfacing. A way to check if one has overcome past concerns or wounds is to verbalize them and see if they can handle it. Observing Jin's worried expression, Jia said, "He is somebody that I used to know, a senior in my department, the type who got along with just about anyone, so quit sulking and lighten up a little." Despite her attempt at nonchalance, Jia couldn't help but reflect on whether she had truly overcome it. Could she genuinely laugh it off and casually refer to him as somebody that I used to know? As Sunbae arrived home, there was a girl who asked, "Appa, you are late. Why so late? Weren't you heading to the mart?" Sunbae amusingly replied, "Ah, they weren't selling it in the neighborhood, the one you wanted to eat." He also added, "Jisoo, the truth is, on the way back home, I met Jia." Jisoo, with a grin, asked, "Jia? You mean that Han Jia?" 2 days after the date, a Monday morning arrived, and Jia and Jin found themselves neither closer nor further apart. An awkward atmosphere hung between them, puzzling Jia. Everything had been going well until Kangwoo's Sunbae appeared, adding an unexpected tension to their relationship. Jin's demeanor had shifted, and Jia sensed a certain coldness from him. It wasn't anything serious, just a misunderstanding, but the timing of Kangwoo's appearance exacerbated the situation. Feeling the need to clear the air, Jia called out to Jin, saying, "Mincheol, are you still worried about that? About me and that Sunbae having a crush on each other, even though it was a very short time? Rather than someone I seriously considered dating, he was more of a friend." Jin stopped her mid-sentence and reassured her, "I am not worried about that. Don't worry, Jia. I am really not worried about that at all, so you don't have to explain yourself. Honestly, I am grateful. It must have been hard for you to talk about it, yet you were honest about it." He gave a big smile and continued, "I am really not worried about it." However, as they reached the cafe, Jia couldn't shake the tension. She wondered if Jin was truly fine or if he was just pretending for her sake. The expression on Jin's face betrayed his true feelings. He was definitely worried. Even though Jia didn't want to think about him, she couldn't get him out of her head. If she could erase anything from her life, she would rather erase her time during university. Kangwoo Sunbae was the reason Jia and he got closer, and it wasn't really a special one. After all, they were in the same major. Sunbae used to share exam notes with Jia since the professor gave nearly identical tests each year. That was probably the reason why they interacted so often. Regardless of how they felt about each other, they found themselves in each other's company quite often. Sunbae got along with everyone, not just with Jia, and amazingly, regardless of age and gender. If Jia were to compare him to an animal, she guessed he'd be a capybara. If a person capable of being loved by anyone existed, it would be that guy. Well, was it because he was just that type of person? That Jia ended up becoming interested in him. One day, Jia's friends asked her if she and Sunbae were dating. Jia nervously tried to avoid the situation by telling them that they were just friends, nothing more. Suddenly, Sunbae appeared behind Jia and asked her, "Ms. Han, did you hear about it too? The rumor that you and I are dating. Since it's already like this, do you want to do it?" "Well, as you can see, the rumors are false. Our relationship is like this most of the time, but that doesn't mean I'll stop trying, so girls, make sure to follow us closely." And that's when it all started, when Sunbae began jokingly asking Jia out. Sunbae persistently teased Jia, relentlessly asking her out on dates. Despite his advances, Jia consistently rebuffed him, irritated by his ongoing attempts. Then, one day, Sunbae posed a serious question, breaking the pattern of his usual jests, "Jia, would you go out with me if I wasn't joking?" Caught in turmoil, Jia grappled with what to answer, but she swiftly deflected the situation with an irritated scolding. Whenever Jia immersed herself in romance novels and love songs, they claimed the world would become bright, and the air would turn sweet. However, Jia experienced nothing as dramatic with Sunbae. What could she say? Unsure if Sunbae was serious, Jia didn't know how she perceived him as a man. Yet, one thing was certain, Sunbae was undeniably enjoyable to be around. During that time, Jia found joy, reveling in drinking and savoring life to the fullest. One day, Kang Juho, the class head at the time, approached Jia and said, "Hey Jia, I want to ask you for a favor." Jia might have mentioned it before, but she was actually quite lucky. Despite struggling with studying, she struck gold during her college entrance exams, securing a spot at the university. If anyone knew her true academic prowess, they'd be left speechless. The university served as an oasis amid her challenging academic life, a place of healing. Jia even rose to become the representative of her major, excelling in various social circles. Now, let's delve into the favor Kang Juho sought from Jia. Class head Kang Juho didn't boast the best reputation, a fact Jia was well aware of. Juho persuaded Jia to accompany him on a dinner, citing the need for a wingwoman for his blind date. However, during the dinner, he unveiled his true intention: he wanted to have dinner with her and introduce himself properly. Annoyed by his presence, Jia attempted to escape the situation. Unfortunately, Jia, as the representative of her major, couldn't afford to be on bad terms with Juho, who held the position of class head. Despite her reluctance, she found herself having dinner with him. Jia confided in her close friend Yu Jisoo, the same girl from the previous part, who is also Jia's school friend. If you don't recall her, please refer to the previous parts of this series. Frustrated with Juho, Jia poured out her inner feelings to Jisoo. In response, Jisoo suggested, "Jia, then why don't you just date him?" Jia, angered by the idea, vehemently exclaimed, "With Juho, never, not even if the earth explodes." However, Jisoo clarified, "I'm not talking about Juho Appa, I meant Kangwoo Appa. Both of you are super close, almost to the point that it's strange you're not dating each other. And you are interested in him, right?" Jia pondered that maybe dating Kangwoo wouldn't be such a bad idea, and if she did, Juho might stop pursuing her. The next day, Jia unexpectedly asked, "Hey, Sunbae, should we start dating for real?" At first, Sunbae thought Jia was joking, but she explained that he kept asking her out, so she wanted to give it a try. That's how their relationship became a reality. The truth was, Jia only started dating Sunbae to maintain her peaceful life. She didn't want to lie, so she came clean with him. Surprisingly, Sunbae's reaction was calm, but he expressed anger toward Juho. He reassured Jia that if Juho tried to bother her again, she could call him, and he would be there for her. Going out with Sunbae actually went pretty well. It felt like Jia's life had become more vibrant and peaceful than before. However, those positive feelings left her feeling confused. Seeking advice, she went to Choi Yeonju, but, in the middle of the conversation, Jia started to brag about her love life, annoying Yeonju. For Jia, that period was exceptionally good. With decent grades, a good boyfriend, and a thriving social life, it was the ideal campus life for her. Until one day, something happened that changed everything. Dating back to the Silla period, there is a fable called The Ballad of Seodong. To summarize, Seodong, a man of humble origins, became infatuated with Princess Manhwa, who was of noble birth. In order to court her, he convinced some children to sing inappropriate songs about her, and, after various events, they ended up marrying each other. A similar situation started happening to Jia because Juho created a similar scenario for her throughout the university. Jia felt the same anger and frustration that Princess Manhwa must have felt. People began approaching Jia, asking about her and Juho's relationship status. Juho orchestrated scenarios by entering the classroom with Jia at the same time and spreading lies about them. In the lobby, Jia expressed her annoyance, saying, "Playing dumb, are we? Haven't you heard the rumors?" Juho, with a grin, responded, "Oh, sorry, I was completely unaware. Why get so worked up over a few rumors? A lie is a lie, right? So stay strong, since rumors like that will just die off when people lose interest." However, contrary to Juho's assurance, the rumors didn't seem to go away. What started as a rumor that Jia was two-timing now became a rumor that she was dating Juho behind Gangwoo's back, spreading like wildfire. Jia, frustrated with the situation, requested Juho to clear up the misunderstanding among students after the semester was over, and he promised to do so. However, he didn't keep his promise. Subsequently, Kang Juho coincidentally crossed paths with Jia multiple times, and during one of these encounters, she heard something so ridiculous that she didn't even feel angry. Despite her efforts to maintain a positive attitude, the situation worsened. Jia, determined not to be looked down upon, pulled all-nighters to study and dedicated herself to student council work. However, instead of earning respect, she found that those she once called friends became distant, while strangers became overly friendly with her. Kangwoo Sunbae believed in her until the very end, so she decided to break up with him. Ironically, his unwavering gentleness only intensified her internal struggles. Constantly burdened with thoughts of how to prove her innocence, she turned to smoking for solace. One day, as she walked along the sidewalk, a car approached from behind. It was Kang Juho. Grinning, he said, "Hey, I heard about it. Apparently, you broke up with Kangwoo. Need a ride?" "The truth is, I've been hearing some pretty unpleasant stuff about that Kangwoo recently. How about it? You and I go get a drink?" In a sudden burst of anger and frustration, Jia dropped her umbrella, climbed onto Juho's car, pressing one leg against the windshield and holding a brick in one hand. Terrified, Juho shouted, "Jia, don't you dare do it." Jia laughed viciously and retorted, "Am I a joke to you?" And with a resounding crash, she shattered the windshield. When Jia confided in Yeonju, she received a scolding, "Just what did you think that would accomplish?" Jia smiled and replied, "Yeah, maybe I really have gone mad." Jia despised empty rumors, so she decided to create a real one, become a real madwoman. It wasn't something she took pride in, but she felt it was a fitting way to conclude her university days. The crucial thing was that Jia wasn't adept at handling people. Reflecting on her encounter with the annoying customer, she pondered the likely outcomes of clearing up a misunderstanding. Number 1, she shows CCTV footage, and the customer apologizes. Number 2, she shows CCTV footage, and the customer still berates her. Jia realized that the second outcome was more common. Faced with the uncomfortable truth that, instead of revealing the truth, keeping a low profile was often the better option. Now, considering the misunderstanding between her and Jean, Jia wondered if keeping her head down was the answer after all. In a state of internal turmoil, she questioned whether there was anything she could do to improve their situation. Despite Mincheol's strong front, Jia was reluctant to exacerbate the situation. After closing the cafe, sudden rain caught Jia off guard, and she realized she had forgotten her umbrella. Ready to buy a new one, Junari intervened, offering an intriguing alternative, Cafe Unique's mysterious item number 1, an umbrella of unknown origin. Jia hesitated, wondering if these were customers' umbrellas. Junari assured her that borrowing them in emergencies and returning them the next day was perfectly fine. As they were about to use one of these borrowed umbrellas, Junari noticed something, and her smile widened. Jia turned to see Jean Mincheol standing in front of them with an umbrella. Playfully, Junari walked away, teasing Jean about paying double taxes. Jean approached Jia and shared, "When I saw that it suddenly started raining, it made me think of you." Jia blushed and walked with Jean under his umbrella. As they waited for the signal to turn green, raindrops fell on Jin's shoulders. Jia, noticing this, pulled him closer. While waiting, a nearby girl made fun of them for sharing an umbrella when they had two. Unbeknownst to them, a car approached dangerously close. Jean instinctively moved his umbrella to shield Jia, saving her from getting soaked. The girl, witnessing this, learned a lesson about mocking others. In the elevator, Jia pondered over Jin's unusual burst of positive energy. Despite the positive change, she couldn't ignore the growing sense of distance between them. It left her questioning whether there was anything she could do to bridge the gap or if her concerns were merely an overreaction. Jean, however, was being particularly kind, even offering Jia a head massage. With a cheerful tone, he asked, "How is it, Jia? Do you feel sleepy yet?" Jia found herself bewildered, wondering why Jean seemed so eager for her to go to sleep. Knowing his penchant for trying out things he'd seen on YouTube, she suspected this might be another instance. Despite her confusion, Jia decided to play along, pretending to fall asleep. To her surprise, Jean seemed genuinely pleased, swinging something in front of her eyes while chanting, "Jia, now, you will obey my every order."